introduce about our chamber, the activities, why the chamber was formed, the background behind it. So our chamber is based out of Mumbai, called Chamber for Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. We have our own office at BKC in Bandra in Mumbai. We are also very active on our social media sites. And in fact, today is the 7th session starting from last Monday. And all the sessions have been recorded and have been uploaded on our YouTube channel, which is listed. So in case anybody has missed any of our earlier sessions, they can visit our YouTube channel and see those sessions. We have had some fantastic talks over the last couple of weeks. Why the chamber was formed was because we want to work very closely with different stakeholders so that we can help our micro and small medium businesses grow. We also have a vision to make the MSME, which is already the backbone of Indian economy, all the more resilient and all the more stronger backbone. Especially during COVID, this segment or this part of the economy was impacted the most. So we want to help them out and come back with a much larger vigor. I'm sure most of you are aware about the contribution of MSME to Indian economy. It contributes almost 30% to the GDP, 48% to the exports, and almost gives employment to 11 crore people. So after agriculture, this is the largest employer across the Indian economy. Our Honorable Minister, Shri Nitinji Gadkari, had shown a vision of making the MSME segment even bigger than what it is right now. And with those words of his that were uttered on December 20th, 2020, we have formed this chamber where the idea is to bring, to help the MSMEs take the next level, help the MSME entrepreneurs to achieve the next level of success. The objectives are pretty clear. The idea is to bring different stakeholders. So you have the researchers, like today we're going to hear about more from the technical aspects of things. On tomorrow and even on last Thursday, we heard more from the finance. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the various schemes that are available from the government of India for food sector. So the idea is to bring different stakeholders to a common platform and help the MSME entrepreneur who's like a one-man show and unable to understand or grasp the different aspects of the business. We also want to empower the farmers who in fact have been entrepreneurs, but they have lost the touch of doing farming as a business or thinking like an entrepreneur. So we want to bring in farmers, empower them, probably gather them as part of different farmer producer corporations or farmer producer organizations, and help them grow and prosper. We also want to conduct different training sessions like today and even next 2 weeks we will be doing it, where throughout the training sessions we want to do capacity building, knowledge enhancement of our members as well as MSME as a whole. We have been blessed to have a great advisory as well as management team. Professor Smita Lele, Dr. Prabodh Halde, and Dr. Prakash Kondekar have been kind enough to accept our invite and be part of our advisory board. We also have a very strong management team, which is also spread across 3 states of India. So our backbone to the overall team management is Mr. Umesh Kamble, who's the Secretary General. We also have Mr. Prashant Nagakar, who brings extensive knowledge from the world of finance, especially in SME segment. Ajit Kasar and Prashant Pradhan are 2 stalwarts from sales and marketing background. Mr. Sachin Kumboja and Mr. Anup Kulkarni are doing fantastic job. Sachin in Western Maharashtra, based out of Kolhapur, and Mr. Anup, based out of Aurangabad, have actually gotten a reach of more than few lakh entrepreneurs or few lakh people in these 2 regions, where they're doing a lot of training programs and entrenching entrepreneurship into the overall society as a whole. We also have Ms. Arpita, who's based out of Gujarat, and we plan to do state-specific activities shortly. And Mr. Samir is based out of Goa, who's actually very active in the startup space in Goa, in the incubation center in Goa as well. So already we are in less than 10 days of our existence. We are spread across 3 states and this is our 7th program in a row that we are conducting. The idea during the month of March is to bring a lot of different entrepreneurs on Mondays so that we can hear their success stories. We can get motivated from their stories. We already had, in fact, three speakers. We had two speakers on this Monday, being Women's Day. We had two fantastic, successful women entrepreneurs. This is our on Tuesdays we have been running technology transfer. So on the first week we heard from the professor Smita Lele from ICT. Yesterday we heard from ex HOD from food department of BARC in Mumbai. Next Tuesday we have confirmation from the director of IFPT Thanjavur. He will be talking about their technologies available. We also have confirmation from NIFTEM, where they are going to showcase their 34 technologies that are available for transfer. And on the 5th Tuesday of this month, we'll have BRC, different department, showcasing their technologies. Today's session is part of our weekly knowledge, and Dr. Nagendran has been kind enough to give us insights about palm oil. And typically, palm oil, when we think about only food applications. In fact, when I was discussing with him, he mentioned there are so many non-food applications, which we'll hear from him on next Wednesday, where I'm being, from what I recall about our conversation, he mentioned right from biofuels to cosmetics and so many different applications in non-food category also is there for palm oil. So we'll hear about him, palm oil related things today as well as next Wednesday. On finance facilitation, we had a fantastic session last Thursday where different government initiatives, right from GEM to Samadhan to Udyam, all of those things were covered by Chartered Accountant Maheshwar Marathe. Tomorrow again we have a fantastic speaker who's going to cover on different finance related schemes, especially under Ministry of Food Processing and Ministry of Agriculture. The following Thursday, 18th, we have confirmation from ICICI Bank that they also have their own startup policy and they do investments, not just the banking portfolio, but they also have an investment portfolio. So they're going to talk about different schemes and different products, financial products that they have, which a lot of our startups can benefit out of. And we plan to have our own incubation cell in Navi Mumbai as well as in Kolhapur, and do many more exhibitions and buyer seller meets, initially virtually and eventually in physical nature once the pandemic goes away. So I just described some of the sessions that we have had and we will be having in especially in the month of March. All these details are again available on our website, casmb.org.in. So I don't want to take away the time from Dr. Nagendran. You feel free to visit or contact us and you will find the details. Various membership benefits, right from free sessions like we're having today, which are later on might be offered only free to our members, or subsidized rate to our activities, our events, as well as our partner events. Today itself, we have three partners, and I would like to put on record to thank them, including AFST Mumbai. We have NetProfan, and we also have Entra O2. So their events will also be free or subsidized to our members. We plan to have a lot of technical speakers come out with our monthly newsletter, and also we would like to offer the office that we have in BKC to any of our members, either for their own team meetings or for their client meetings. We have tried to keep the membership fee as low as possible so that more and more members and more SME can benefit out of it. And the categorization has been based on the new MSME definition. So the micro sector can become a member with an annual fee of 2,500. The small sector is 5,000, and so on and so forth. We also want to bring in students and farmers because we think students are are likely future entrepreneurs, and obviously farmers in their own sense are an entrepreneur of a sense. So these are my contact details, my phone number, as well as my email address. So if you have any questions or any queries, feel free to reach out to me. We at the chamber are always available to help you out. So with this background about the chamber, I take I'm honored to introduce today's speaker, who's joining us from Malaysia. His name is Dr. Nagendran Balasundram. Dr. Nagendran has a bachelor's degree in food science and technology and a master's degree in industrial technology from the University of Science, Malaysia, USM. He obtained a diploma in public management from the National Institute of Public Administration, Malaysia, and a PhD in nutrition from the University of Sydney, Australia. Dr. Nagendran's specific area of research interests are food applications of palm oil, lipid metabolism, and the physiological effects of polyphenols. Dr. Nagendran began his working career as an officer in the Malaysian Administrative and Diplomatic Services in 1989 and joined the Malaysian Palm Oil Board in 1995. He served as the Malaysian Palm Oil Board Regional Manager Europe, based at the Embassy of Malaysia to Belgium, Mission of Malaysia to the European Union in Brussels from January 2009 to December 2012. He was then head of MPOB's nutrition unit from March 2013 to October 2015. Since November 2015, Dr. Nagendran has been the Malaysian Palm Oil Board Regional Manager, South Asia. Dr. Nagendran has extensive experience in the development of international food standards and has been a member of the Malaysian delegation to the Codex meetings in Rome and Geneva. He has also been active in meetings of the Codex Committee on General Principles, the Codex Committee on Nutrition and Food for Specific Dietary Uses, and the Codex Committee on Fats and Oils. He has also been a member of the Malaysian delegation to meetings of the International Maritime Organization. We welcome you, Dr. Nagendran, and would like you to take over with your talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nilesh Dele. Very good evening to all of you. It's my pleasure to be given this opportunity to interact and reach out to the Chamber for the Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. And to my friend, Mr. Nilesh, a special thanks for this opportunity. So what I will be doing today is I'll be talking to you about palm oil. Now, palm oil is one of the oils that is used in many applications. But for today's talk, I would just like to focus on its potential for food applications. So I hope you can see the screen now. I've already started the screen sharing. Okay, thank you. So now my talk, I would like to begin with a brief introduction. Then I'll focus on palm and palm kernel oils. Then zero in on the food applications and place some special emphasis on solid fats, and then of course we come to a conclusion. Now, why do we talk about oils and fats? Now, we must understand that oils and fats are a very important part of our diet. They may be from plant origin, in which case they are called vegetable oils, or they may be from animal origin. There are various functions in foods. They give one a feeling of taste and satiety, a feeling of fullness. Oils and fats are very important to establish or determine the texture, mouthfeel, consistency of food. And in cooking, or even in industrial food production, especially industrial scale frying, oils and fats are very important as heat transfer mediums. Now, what oil, what fat do we use? This would depend much on our culture and habits. We also have to look, especially when we look at the industrial application, one has to look at the functionality that a particular oil or fat gives you. And ultimately, when you talk about business, there's need for easy availability and also for some form of cost effectiveness. So all these factors come in when one considers what oil or fat to be used. And when we talk about availability, one needs to look at what are the oils that are available. Now, this generally, we take our statistics from a publication which is called Oil World, and that's the source of this data. At this point of time, Oil World has published the data for what we call the 8 major oils. These are palm, soy, rapeseed, mustard oil, or sunflower oil, as well as other, well, they're considered major oils, but they are not so big when it comes to global situations, and these include cottonseed, groundnut, palm kernel, coconut oils. Now, when we look at world production for the year 2020, these eight oils, the total production of these eight oils was about 178 or 179 million tons, of which palm at about 73.8 million tons contributed about 37.4%. The next was soy oil, which is about 58 million tons, almost 30% of total production. Then you have got sunflower oil, you've got mustard or rapeseed oil, and then others. But when we look at world exports, here we find that palm oil predominates. One of the main reasons for this predominance of palm in the export market is palm is exported as an oil, whereas others, for example, soy oil may actually be exported in the form of a bean, or in the case of sun seeds, mustard seeds, they may be carried as seeds. But overall, when it comes to oil per se, palm dominates again with 57% share of the world trade. That is about almost 50.5 million tons, followed by soy oil, sun oil, again mustard oil or rapeseed oil. So this is basically sort of a balance sheet of the world production and export or trade of the major oils. Now, why is palm playing an important role or holding such a big share of world production? This is basically because of its very high productivity. 1 hectare produces almost 3.5 million tons of palm and palm kernel oils. But when you look at other oil seeds, for example, soybean, it's about 0.45 tons. Sunflower and rapeseed are almost similar, but 0.76, 0.78 tons. So this is one reason. Very important for the predominance and the high production of palm is simply because it has got a very high productivity, or almost between 3.5 to 4 tons per hectare per year. Now, when we talk about palm oil, there is an associated oil, which is the palm kernel oil. And this part, I would just like to describe these two oils to you. Now, the palm oil and palm kernel oil, these are actually obtained from the fruit. It's a fruit oil. It's a fruit oil. Palm oil is a fruit oil. And it's obtained from the fruits of the tree, Iles guinensis, which originated from the forest, the rainforest of Africa. It has been planted in Southeast Asia, mainly in Indonesia and in Malaysia. And from the fruit, the mesocarp or the flesh, you get palm oil, whereas from the nut, from the kernel, you get palm kernel oil. In terms of production, in fact, palm oil production is almost 10 times that of palm kernel oil. So this is just to give you an idea of the two different types of oils. Now, although they originate from the same crop, palm oil and palm kernel oil are distinct basically from the chemical point of view, because palm oil has got a higher content of palmitic acid, whereas palm kernel oil has got more of what you call the lauric and myristic acid. In fact, palm kernel oil is very similar to coconut oil, and therefore its applications are also quite similar to coconut oil. Okay, the major producers of palm, as I mentioned earlier, are Indonesia, which holds about 57% of production, Malaysia about 26% of production, and other countries which include Papua New Guinea, Thailand, South American countries, for example, Colombia, and even African countries, which is the home of the oil palm. And total production of palm oil in 2020 was about 74 million tons, whereas the export was about 50.6 million tons. Again, here, Indonesia with 54% and Malaysia with 30% share of the exports are the major players. Now, that is the export side. Now, who are the major palm oil consuming countries? Indonesia is also a producer as well as a consumer with a huge population. Indonesia consumes about 20% of the total palm oil consumed in the world. India comes second and almost same amount, but 11% of the consumption of palm oil is between India and EU. Then you have China, Malaysia. We are a small country, but we do produce and we also process the palm oil for various applications. So we consume about 5%. Then we have Pakistan, Nigeria, and the rest of the world. In fact, more than 160 countries worldwide use palm oil for various applications. Now, moving on to the part where we are talking about applications, meaning the uses of palm oil. So where does palm oil go? And here in this talk tonight, I will just focus on the food applications, whereas as Nilesh Bhai mentioned, next week I'll be talking about non-food applications. So those of you who are interested in non-food applications, please bear with me, wait for a week and we'll meet again next week. But now let's go on to the food applications. So this is a simplified flow chart, a simplified flow chart which shows the application of both palm and palm kernel oil, and the boxes in yellow denote palm oil and the boxes in green denote palm kernel oil. So as I said earlier, palm oil is obtained from the fruit, the fleshy part or the mesocarp. Palm kernel oil is obtained from the kernel or the nut. So what happens is when we get the palm oil from, or the palm kernel oil from either the fruit or the nut, they would first have to be processed. They would have to undergo a refining process where the impurities are removed. Further to that, the refined oils may then be fractionated. They may be fractionated into one, the liquid component, and the liquid component is called olein, and the solid component is stearin. And sometimes, in the case of palm kernel oil, it also may be hydrogenated to form specialty fats that are used in confectionaries, coffee whiteners, filled milk. This is where milk fat is replaced with vegetable fat, and then we have got coating fats. But more so, palm oil is the one that is used in many food applications. Many food applications because of its intrinsic characteristics, which I'll be discussing later. But essentially, palm oil itself can be used for margarines, shortenings, for vanaspati, for frying fats, and even as a milk fat replacer in ice cream. Then the liquid component, which is the olein, is very often used in frying. It's used in cooking, and in India, you actually call it palm olein oil, and it's often used for cooking in households. It's used for the making of shortening, margarines. Then you can also have fractionation of palm oil to get super olein, which is a highly liquid oil, very commonly used as salad oils. The harder fraction of the solid component of olein, of fractionated palm oil, is called palm meat fraction. This can be used in shortenings and margarines. Then going on to the solid component, which you obtain by fractionating palm oil, which is the palm stearin. Now that can also be used. Very often, palm stearin is used as the hard stock for margarine. You can refractionate palm stearin to get soft stearin and super stearin. So this is basically a simplified flow chart, but essentially I was trying to illustrate the various food applications of palm oil and also palm kernel oil. Now, these are some of the common applications of palm. Very commonly, palm, especially palm oil, when fractionated into the liquid component of olein, is very commonly used as household cooking oil. Then palm oil itself, without fractionation, is ideal for industrial frying. Margarines and shortenings are two of the most important solid fat products that are produced from from palm oil. Then you have vegetable ghee, or in India you call it vanaspati, and this is again another product that is used for the purpose of even for normal cooking. Many households still use vanaspati. You also find vanaspati in industrial product used, for example, for the manufacture of meat ties and other Indian delicacies. Then in confectionery fats, you can use also palm oil in frozen desserts and as dairy substitutes. Now, one of the major reasons that palm can be used in so many applications is because it's very versatile and it has got high stability, it stands high temperature and is very good for frying. Palm is free of trans fatty acids. It is sustainably produced and it is very competitively priced. So for the industrial application, you have got several plus points from palm. One is versatile, it's stable, it's free of trans fatty acids, and to top this all, it is very competitively priced. So this is a very important factor that one needs to consider when using or considering what type of fat to use and what type of product to make from these fats. Now, for frying, or deep fat frying or industrial frying, very important attributes for a frying oil. One is very high resistance to oxidation. A highly resistant oil or an oil that's resistant to oxidation will not deteriorate easily. It will increase the shelf life of the fried product. And when you're looking at Indian snack foods, we have got namkeens, we have got chaklis and all this. And in fact, some of these products are actually manufactured in India and exported to Malaysia, and they can last up to 3 months. And this long shelf life is due to the use of a stable frying oil, and most of these industries actually use palm oil. Then there's also a need that your frying oil should have low rate of polymerization or gum formation, because gum formation is an indication of deterioration of the oil. So an oil that should be used for frying is one that has got a low rate of polymerization. Then the hydrolytic breakdown of the oil, or the oil breaks down, and the breakdown product is basically what you call free fatty acids, and you need to use an oil that has got low or slow rate of increase of free fatty acids. Also, an oil that has got low rate of foaming, and the oil shouldn't darken so easily. And also very important for foods. You want your food to smell or have the flavor of its natural ingredients and not take on the flavor of the oil or an oil that has deteriorated. So it is important to have an oil that actually reduces the odor formation even while you produce the food or even when the food has been fried. So palm oil is very ideal for these uses, basically because of its content of approximately 50% palmitic acid, 45 to 50% palmitic acid. It is very stable. It offers high oxidative stability and very high smoke point. So the oil does not smoke at high temperatures. Then the oil, unlike many liquid oils which need to be stabilized to be used for frying by hydrogenation, palm oil requires no hydrogenation. It has got a neutral flavor, and as I mentioned earlier, it does not affect the flavor of the food that is fried. And then you can actually blend palm oil with other oils, say for example, groundnut oil, or you could actually blend it with sunflower oil to improve the oxidative stability of the soft oil. And palm is very compatible with other blends, in other oils in blending. And please do not confuse blending with adulteration. Indian food regulations allow blending two oils and to the minimum percentage of 20% of the lower component. Okay, so 20/80 is allowed. So blending is allowed. Please don't confuse that with adulteration. Now, what palm oil offers for the food producer, if you are a producer of say snack foods and you're a small medium industry, you can rest assured that palm provides you stability of a fried product. In fact, it improves the taste and the flavor of the product basically because it has got a neutral flavor and it also enhances the shelf life of the product. And a very important application for palm is in the area of solid fats. So I would like to spend a little bit more time here. Okay. So what are the benefits of palm in solid fats? One is that palm oil has got a balanced mixture of liquid oils and solid fats because of its fatty acid composition. So because of that, it's an ideal consistency. It is semi-solid, it is pourable, and can be easily handled. So it offers that particular flexibility of handling. It has got natural solids at normal temperature, and of course, when you heat it up for frying, the solids they melt and they readily mix around and help cook your snack food more smoothly. Very important. Palm has got low trans fatty acids, and in fact, it's very important in the production of several products that will contain less than 1% trans fatty acids. And this would become very important as India moves on to regulate trans fatty acids in year 2020. Palm is very versatile. As I mentioned to you or showed to you in my flow chart, you can get various food products, you can get various fat products from palm by very simple method, which is basically a physical process using uh, control cooling to produce different types of crystals. So it's very versatile and you can get a range of products that was shown in my flow chart earlier. And by this process, palm can be tailor-made to produce different fractions for different functional requirements and applications. And the very fact that you do not need to hydrogenate your oil to convert it into a semi-solid means that there is one step less that is required. So hydrogenation is not required. So you have got a reduced cost. And it is being from a plant. It is very suitable for vegetarians because there are some food products in some countries where they use, say, for example, fat derived from animal sources for food application. So by using palm, you actually avoid the use of animal fat, and therefore vegetarians can actually consume such foods. So over the years, MPOB, the Malaysian Palm Oil Board, being a research organization, has invested a lot of time and effort in creating new and innovative products. So, for example, by modulating or controlling the fractionation process, we have got different palm fractions that can be used in different food segments. And we believe that one of the strongest points for palm oil in food industry is its use as a replacement or to eliminate partial hydrogenation. So we can actually reduce or even completely eliminate trans fatty acids in the food chain by utilizing palm oil. So these are some very interesting looking bakery products, and all these can be used, can use palm oil as one of its major ingredients, i.e. the fat. So fats in bakery products, they are very important because they actually determine the eating quality, and the taste of your baked products. So the fat, because it has got its own melting behavior, it affects the tenderness and the moisture or the moistness of your food. Say, for example, you would not like a cake that is too dry. There is a need for the cake to hold on to some amount of moisture and yet not deteriorate. So it's very important. Whereas in products like biscuits, you may not want it to be moist, but you still want it to be somewhat tender and easily crumble when you bite it. Then it is important. The fat, you need a fat to give flavor, and very important for baked products. We all eat or we all love bakery products because they give you a nice feeling, a richness, mouth feel. These are important, and this is what the fat that you use in your bakery products gives you. Texture. Then for certain bakery products, you need a leavening effect. The fat should also act as a lubricant, which gives a smooth feeling of a feeling when you bite into the bakery product and you crunch it in your mouth. Structure is important, and so that your bakery products don't crumble too easily. And ultimately, for the food industry, what is important is the shelf life and product stability. And the right choice of fat will go a long way in giving you optimum contributions towards these parameters. So, plant-based fats, one of the major application is in bakery shortenings, in bread fats, in biscuit fats, in cream fats that are used in biscuits, cream fillings that are used in certain pastry products. It can also be used to spray on biscuits after the biscuit is baked to give it a nice shiny look. Then we have got pastry fat, for example. You need a flakiness for the pastry, and this you can obtain by using palm-based pastry fats. Then you've got fondant fats and even chocolate spreads. The very popular chocolate, the source of the fat that is used is actually palm oil. In fact, palm olive, and this is one of the secrets of why Nutella tastes like it does. So the added advantage is that by using palm, you get all these semi-solid fats that you use in the bakery industry. They are all fats that are trans-free. So now, just to share with you, these are some of the fats that we have developed. For example, shortening for puff pastry. In puff pastry, you need a high melting point fat that will allow the layers to form between the pastry layers. Okay, so you can get this type of fats by blending palm oil, palm olive, and a hard stock, which is a palm stearin. So again, all this depending on your working conditions for the pastry, you could add different proportions of palm oil, palm olive, palm stearin, and get this type of fat. And indeed, many bakery fat producers in India are actually using combination of different fractions of palm to obtain these pastry fats. Then biscuit creams, the creams that you use layering in sandwich biscuits, where you have got two layers of biscuit separated by cream. Again, you can use different uh, proportions of palm oil and palm olive and also palm stearin. You always need a certain amount of palm stearin because your most of these fats are actually semi-solid at room temperature, and it is palm stearin combined with palm olive that gives it that solidness, whereas the palm olive gives it some amount of liquidity. Again, you have got uh, these creams that are put as toppings on bakery products. The product on the right side of the screen, the one that is white. Again, you can see the different proportion of palm oil, palm olive, and palm stearin can be used. It's a matter of mixing the right fraction in the right amount to get your final product. These are basically cream products. And palm also offers good creaming properties, so your cream is quite rich when you eat the product. Then you've got shortening for cookies and breads. Again, we can use the different fractions and different amounts to get these different types of fats. So, for example, you have got here chocolate chip cookies, chocolate chip cookie, and you can use different fractions of palm in different combinations. Breads use far less fat or oil compared to biscuits, but again, we can use the palm-based trans-free product for this. Okay, margarine for cakes and spreads. So you can get cake margarine, also margarine that you use for the icing or the dressing on the cake. and also spreads that we use on top of our bread for breakfast. So this can also be used, can be obtained, I'm sorry, can be obtained by using the different proportions of palm oil and its other fractions. So I have just about completed my presentation, and I'd just like to finish off with the conclusion or what I would just say as take-home messages. Uh, if at all you need to recall. What is important is please remember that palm oil is very versatile, and because of its versatility, it allows a wide range of applications in the food sector. Then, palm oil has got a balanced fatty acid composition, almost equal proportion of saturated and unsaturated fats, and this allows it to offer stability, but at the same time, it also offers you ease of use. And the stability is very important when, especially when you're talking about a product that requires a long shelf life. Palm oil is naturally semi-solid, approximately 20% solid fat content at 20 degrees Celsius. It does not require any hydrogenation. It's the best option for trans-free formulations. And for the bakery sector, palm-based fat shortenings, well, they offer an excellent choice for bakery applications. So with that, thank you. Thanks to Naresh Bhai for this opportunity, and thanks to the kind audience for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The floor is open for Q&A. You can mute yourself, unmute yourself, sorry.
Hi, this is Gopal sir from Hyderabad. Now, with respect to the palm oil, right, what are the business opportunities that we have in India? Most of the times we hear that we import oil. So, what we can do out of it? Or if not doing something else from oil, what other opportunities that we have that we can do from here? Is my question audible or you want me to repeat?
Okay, sir. Thank you for your question. The question was, what are the opportunities that palm oil offers? Now, India imports almost about um, 8 million tons of palm oil a year. And most of this palm oil goes into the food sector. Almost 60% of the palm oil imported by in India. In fact, globally, about 85% of palm oil that's produced goes into food applications. When you'll ask about what opportunities, this is something that we need to look at from a broader perspective. It depends on what industry are you currently involved in, and what industry or what experience you have. Naturally, one could import palm oil and distribute, or one could import palm oil and use it for further processing, or one could import a semi-finished palm product and use it for your own industry. So it all depends on what type of business you're involved in. Some of these discussions we can take into a private discussion. You can email me. My email is shown here, nagain@mpob.gov.my. You can email me and we can discuss it, because as I said, palm has got various applications, and to determine which suits you best, we need to discuss further about your own activity, own interest. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nagel. Thank you. Thanks for your wonderful session.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. This is Mahesh here from Chennai.
Yes, Mahesh.
So we from our childhood we have heard about palm oil, which is available here in the local market. But it was really eye-opening to see like margarines, shortening, and various products available for a bakery and related products.
Mhm.
And so where we can actually we do not know how where the availability and how do we source it? Because here we see only oils all around, so we don't know how to find. Do you have any channels so that we can source it? We are very small entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
like micro level. We wanted to try to making some cookies. So we tried with a lot of butter. It was
Yes.
not cost effective. So we
Okay.
went for some vanaspati, and
Mm-hmm.
it was not working out. And we are afraid like it was so much fat in it. We don't
Okay.
know whether it will be how healthy it is. But when you said
Okay.
like it is a trans free
Mm-hmm.
and other benefits of health, so we
Mm-hmm.
thought like, why don't we use it? So we just wanted to know how we need to choose it and where we can buy it.
Okay. Okay. Now, what you probably saw as when you're a child, Mahesh from Chennai, right? Now,
Correct.
what you actually find in the market is the liquid component, which is used as a cooking oil. That's the olein, palm olein. Whereas the semi-solid component, the palm oil, I was based in Mumbai for about 3 years, and I've traveled around several parts of India. You, I hardly found table margarine. That means, margarine that you spread on your bread in the market. I don't know. I haven't been to India for almost, well, whole of last year. I couldn't come to India. So the last time I was there was in September 2019. You don't actually find some of these products in the shelf. But what actually happens is many of the food producers, the biscuit manufacturers, they actually use palm oil in their biscuits. Now, if you wanted to source palm oil and if your requirements are not very big, you would be better off trying to source it from one of the local suppliers, because of the economics of cost of importing directly from Malaysia. But if your requirements are pretty big, then we can look at how you can import palm oil directly from Malaysia. But essentially, again, if you say that you are using vanaspati per se would not be an ideal component to be used for your bakery products because of its melting behavior. It is not designed for bakery products. So that is where you need to sort of identify different types of requirements. And here we can definitely help any of you. Please feel free to email me or you can contact Nilesh Bhai and we can look at how we can guide you further. My talk today was just to, as an eye opener or to introduce you the concept. And next, there is much more information that we can share, I can share. I'm happy to share my presentation with you all later. But essentially, it's a situation where one needs to look a little bit deeper into your requirements. So we can, if you're producing biscuits, you need a different type of fat. If you're producing cakes, you need a different type of fat. And biscuits are dry, cakes are moist. Biscuits last longer. Cakes, you need to finish them in a few days. So all these factors need to be considered when you look at what type of fat or what type of fat product you want to use in your final product.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
answers.
Thank you.
Dr. Nagendran, with your permission, if I
Yes.
can add. So there are few vendors, like, if you are a small manufacturer, obviously going through the likes of, and I would take a couple of names like AAK Kamani is one of them,
Yes.
who are basically into
Yes.
specialty fats and
Yes.
oils. And I'm sure they have their own distribution channel and having their own distributor or someone
Yes.
probably in Chennai or close to where you are. Then there is Puratos is, I think there's another company who's also selling
Yes.
these bakery shortenings and all that. So to answer your question, you look for some small suppliers or like distributors who are supplying bakery ingredients, and I'm sure you'll find.
Yes.
And if you don't, then like Dr. Nagendran said, you can always reach out to me or to him
Yeah.
for any further guidance.
Thank you so much for your information, and I'll get in touch with you later, and I'll source from the local vendor, because uh, importing is a very big one right now. As a small entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, we require this kind of small supply chain. Thank you so much, Nilesh, for it. Thank you, Nagarjun sir. Thank you, Nilesh sir. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, welcome. Uh, I think there was one question in the chat box, not exactly a question, just a statement about allergen declaration. So I don't know if Dr. Nagendran, you want to address that? Is there any allergen thing with regards to palm oil or any declaration?
Okay, allergen declaration. I think this generally does not apply to oils. Okay, allergen declaration. I think there are certain food products that to which it applies, but to the best of my knowledge, it doesn't apply to oils. And there are actually no such requirements even in countries which are which are quite strict with several food regulations. For example, Japan, Korea, the European Union. So there's no issue of allergen when you refer to palm oil.
And if you can throw some light on the trans fatty acid thing, with
Yes.
the FSSAI's norms.
Okay. Now, what actually happens is trans fatty acids. Now, trans fatty acids are, well, they are present, naturally present in several ruminant or animal fats. For example, in milk fat, you find trans fatty acids, but they are practically absent in vegetable oils. So in vegetable oils, trans fatty acids may be formed. Actually, what we call them as process-derived entities. That means it's the processing that causes the trans fatty acid to be formed. So when you actually take a soft oil, for example, soybean oil, and you want to convert it into a semi-solid, the oil undergoes a process where you add hydrogen in the presence of a catalyst. You basically harden the oil. Now, in processing, you do not do a full hydrogenation. You do what they call a partial hydrogenation. Because if you fully hydrogenate soft soybean oil, for example, it will become too hard. So to get your required degree of hardness, which is slightly soft but not too soft, so partial hydrogenation is used, and this partial hydrogenation results in the formation of trans fatty acids. Trans fatty acids are harmful to health, and in fact, they have been declared as such by even the WHO. And what FSSAI is actually doing to target to phase out trans fat in 2022 is basically taking its lead from what the WHO is doing. WHO, the World Health Organization, is actually targeting to reduce the industrially produced trans fatty acids from the food chain by 2023. So I must congratulate the FSSAI for taking a step 1 year before the WHO does this. So for the industry, why do you need to use a trans fat? Normally, hydrogenated fat was basically because they wanted to stabilize the fat. Now, what I'm suggesting here is instead of using a partially hydrogenated oil, use an oil that doesn't contain hydrogenated fats. So this is where palm-based component comes in very useful. So it is free of trans fatty acids. It offers you the consistency you need for your fat product, and enhances the shelf life. So these are the specs that you need to consider. So Nalishbhai, have I answered your question with regards to trans fats?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I have another follow-up question that people say certain oils are good or certain oils are not good. We also keep hearing about PUFA, MUFA, saturated fat. So if you can enlighten us on that as well.
Okay. Now, fats and oils. Fats and oils are made up of what we call fatty acids. Okay. Now the fatty acids, they are basically chains of carbon and hydrogen. Okay. The fatty acid differs in chain length. That means the number of carbon atoms, you can have 12 carbons, or even you can even have 4 carbons, 6 carbons, 12 carbons. It's almost always an even number of carbon atoms in the chain. And then you have hydrogen atoms. The number of hydrogen atoms attached determine what you call as the degree of saturation. Okay, it is a bit difficult to go into this without resorting to some kind of chemistry, but basically if you imagine people holding hands, because what actually happens in a chemical bond is two atoms hold hands. Now in the case of saturated fatty acid, each carbon will be holding on to only one carbon atom and holding on to hydrogen atoms with its other arms. In the case of polyunsaturated or monounsaturated, you have what you call a double bond between two carbon atoms, two adjacent carbon atoms. That means two carbon atoms next to each other, they've got a double bond. In the case of a polyunsaturated fatty acid, there are more than two double bonds. Poly means more. So you have two double bonds, or in some cases you may have more. So this is what you mean by when you say saturated, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Now there's been a lot of discussions going on in terms of the health effects of the different fatty acids. Um, about 60, 70 years ago, this idea started that saturated fats are bad. But over the years, um, that's true for a long time. But perhaps over the last 10 years or so, this entire uh, misconception is shifting. Now, people actually look at total fat intake, total calorie intake, the interactions between different fats. And naturally, there are certain recommendations. For example, the overall recommendation is one should take a balanced diet where about 30% of your energy comes from the fat. Okay, so and each gram of fat gives you 9 calories. Each gram of carbohydrate gives you 4 calories. So, and same with protein. So one needs to look at the energy balance, but ultimately the concept of saturated fat being bad has moved away from where it was. In fact, there's significant research and findings that have come over the last 10 years that has moved away from this rather, I would say this rather arcane or old-fashioned thought. So that has been the concern. I think the major concern now is the trans fatty acids, because trans fatty acids are far more harmful than saturated fat. And it's very important to remove this. At the same time, one needs to take a mixture of oils. In India, you consume groundnut oil, mustard oil, coconut oil, til or sesame oil, and it all depends on what is available locally, what your culinary habits are. For example, in certain parts of India, mustard oil is preferred. In certain parts, for example, in Kerala, coconut oil. In Tamil Nadu, groundnut and sunflower oil. So it depends what type of oil is available and your cooking. But ultimately, when it comes to fat frying or deep fat frying, it is very important to use a saturated or more saturated oil because it is more stable. So functionality comes in when you look at what oil you should consider or what you should consume. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other, maybe one last question? We are already at 7:07, and we'll have Dr. Nagendran next week as well, next Wednesday on March 17th. I think, and I believe Dr. Nagendran has also given his email address. So if anybody wants to reach out to him directly, they can do so. So I would request Diksha to propose a vote of thanks.
I would like to propose a vote of thanks. Sincerely thanks to Dr. Nagendran for your valuable time and a very enlightening session. I would like to thank our support partners, AFST Mumbai Chapter, Entra02 and NetProgram. And thank you all the participants for attending today's webinar. I declare this session has ended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Nagendran.
to everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you again next week.
Yes.